A nightmare on the highway. I never believed in ghosts or the supernatural. As a computer engineering student, I was taught to trust numbers, logic, and evidence. But one night, 5 years ago, on a desolate stretch of highway between two states, everything I believed in unraveled. To this day, I can't look at a highway rest area without feeling a cold shiver down my spine. I can't sleep soundly at night without a folding knife tucked under my pillow. It was autumn. The air was crisp, and the leaves had started falling thick across the shoulders of the roads. I received a wedding invitation from an old high school friend who now lived in another state, nearly 17 hours away by car. As a broke college student, flying wasn't an option, so I decided to drive. I had done long drives before and figured I could power through with some snack food, canned coffee, and playlists to keep me awake. I left early in the morning, full of the naive confidence of youth and the illusion of invincibility. The first part of the journey went smoothly. Long, straight roads stretched endlessly ahead. Tiny towns came and went like faint memories flashing past the car windows. But as night crept in, the exhaustion hit me like a wave. I'd been driving for over 14 hours straight. My eyes burned, my hands trembled slightly. I knew I couldn't go on without risking a crash. I needed to find a place to rest. Soon, salvation appeared in the form of a flickering sign. Rest area. 1 mile. I turned in gratefully. The rest stop was unnervingly empty. A small, plain building stood under dim yellow lighting. A few vending machines hummed quietly. No other vehicles. Not a soul in sight. The parking lot stretched out under a waning moon, cracked pavement dotted with tufts of weeds. I was too tired to care. I reclined the seat, pulled my jacket over myself, and tried to catch a few hours of sleep. Sleep came fast, but it wasn't deep. Sometime later, I don't know how long, I was jolted from the edge of a dream by a sound. A soft but unmistakable click. It came from the driver's side door. My door. I shot upright like someone had doused me with cold water. My heart pounded. I looked around wildly through the windows but saw nothing. Just the stillness of night. Everything was silent. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe a bottle shifted on the seat. I was probably just overtired, I told myself. I lay back down and closed my eyes. But then that feeling came, the kind that makes your skin crawl even when nothing's wrong. The sensation of being watched. My back prickled with sweat. My heart thudded against my ribs. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't move. It felt like something was out there. Not making a sound, not showing its face, but present, watching. As dawn began to gray the edges of the sky, I finally stirred. I forced myself to get out of the car, needing something, anything, to shake the fog of fear. I went into the small building and bought a can of coffee from the vending machine. On my way back to the car, my eyes swept the lot instinctively. Then they caught on something, movement beneath my vehicle. I froze mid-step. Something was shifting under the car. I squinted, leaned down. For a second, I thought I was imagining things. But no. A human arm, pale as chalk, dry and shriveled like a husk, was moving slowly, retreating behind the wheel. I stood rooted in place, stunned. The arm slid back into the shadows beneath the car and disappeared. I backed away, heart in my throat, then turned and sprinted back into the restroom. I locked myself in a stall, chest heaving, drenched in cold sweat. What the hell had I just seen? A drifter? A drug addict? Some sick prank? Silence. Then the front door creaked open with a long, deliberate groan. Footsteps echoed inside. Heavy, dragging footsteps. Not sneakers, not dress shoes. More like the scrape of something too weak or too broken to lift its feet. I pulled my feet up onto the toilet seat, pressing my back to the stall wall, not daring to breathe. A shadow passed in front of the stall. I could see the edge of a shoe beneath the door. The figure stopped. I held my breath. Then the footsteps resumed. Another stall door opened. Then the sound of someone sitting on the floor. A long, rattling breath followed. Not a sigh. Not a groan. Something deeper. Guttural. That was it. I couldn't stay. I kicked the door open and bolted. I didn't look back. I ran toward my car like my life depended on it, because I was starting to believe it might. Behind me, the footsteps sped up. A hoarse, inhuman scream split the morning air. It wasn't just someone yelling. It was rage and madness compressed into a noise that didn't belong in this world. I dove into the car, turned the key, and floored the gas. Tires screeched as I tore out of the lot. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse, just a second, of something chasing me. Arms flailing, mouth gaping unnaturally wide, eyes bulging from a face that looked like its skin had been borrowed. I didn't stop driving until I reached a small town an hour later. I pulled into a convenience store lot, parked under bright fluorescent lights, and stayed there until morning truly arrived. I sipped the now cold coffee. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I told myself again and again that it couldn't have been real. But it was. After that night at the rest stop, things weren't the same. I tried to forget it. I told no one. Not my friends, not my professors, not even the friend whose wedding I'd driven so far to attend. I smiled for the photos, raised my glass during toasts, and danced to the music. But I didn't sleep well. Not in the hotel, not in the car on the way home, and definitely not once I got back to my apartment. Every creak in the walls, every shadow in the corner of my eye set my nerves on edge. I'd started locking my bedroom door at night, even though I lived alone. By the time summer rolled around, I had buried the memory deep enough that I thought maybe it had just been a sleep-deprived hallucination. Maybe that pale hand was a trick of the light. Maybe the figure chasing me had never existed at all. That's what I told myself. But then, one night in June, something happened that shattered all those lies. I'd taken a summer job working at a sports stadium, helping with the late-night cleanup crews. Most shifts ended past midnight. The drive home was long and lonely, cutting through several miles of empty forest road. No streetlights, no cell service, just the hum of tires on asphalt and the pitch-black woods looming on both sides. It was around 1:15 a.m. when I saw him. At first, I thought it was a deer, something standing in the road up ahead, just beyond the reach of my high beams. I slowed down. The shape didn't move. As I got closer, the headlights revealed what it really was. A man, dressed as a clown. He stood perfectly still, facing the forest, his back to the road. He wore an old-fashioned clown suit, red and white stripes, oversized buttons, frilled collar. His hair was wild and orange, like a cheap wig. But what stopped me cold was the cluster of balloons tied to his wrist, gently bobbing in the night breeze. I veered into the opposite lane to give him space, thinking maybe it was some drunk pulling a prank or a cosplayer gone off course. That's when he turned around. The face was painted white, but too perfectly, like a mask molded from porcelain. The eyes were wrong, just two black pits, as if something had scooped out the eyeballs. And the mouth, wide, stretched by makeup into a smile that reached ear to ear, painted thick and red, the kind of red that looked too much like blood. As I passed him, I hit the gas and didn't look back. But the nightmare didn't end there. 10 minutes later, I stopped at a gas station on the edge of a small town to refuel. The place was empty, just a flickering light above the pump and a locked convenience store. As I filled my tank, I heard something, a sound like leaves rustling, like someone or something moving through the trees. I looked across the road. There he was, standing at the tree line. Same costume, same balloons, same eyes. He didn't move, just stared, as if he could see me through the dark. I dropped the nozzle, leapt into my car, and peeled out so fast the tires spat gravel behind me. There were no side roads he could have taken, no cars, no houses, just dense forest. And still, he had gotten there ahead of me. It had been nearly 2 years since the clown. I never saw him again, at least not in the real world. But in dreams, he visited often. Sometimes I'd wake in a cold sweat, his mask still burned into my retinas. Other times, it wasn't the clown I saw, but something worse. Something with too many fingers and no face, crawling from beneath my car or whispering from behind walls. I'd become an expert at pretending it was just stress, pretending I was fine. My grades were decent. I kept a job. I laughed when people made jokes, even when I didn't feel like laughing. But deep down, I knew something had changed. Something in me had shifted the night I saw that pale hand under my car, and it hadn't shifted back. It was around this time that my friends Joy and Eric decided we needed a distraction. Something fun, something dumb, something that would make us feel like kids again. So we picked a house. There was an old place about 6 blocks from my apartment. Everyone knew it. Everyone avoided it. The kind of house that made you cross the street when walking past. It had been abandoned for years, though no one could remember exactly how long. It was one of those tall, narrow Victorian-style homes with peeling paint and shutters hanging loose like broken wings. No one mowed the lawn. No lights were ever on. It was as though the house had simply dropped out of time. Joy came up with the idea. A childhood game. Ring the bell and run. The old ding-dong ditch, Eric laughed. We're 24, Joy. So what? She said, grinning. Come on, where's your sense of adventure? The front steps creaked under our feet. There was no doorbell, just a tarnished brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. Joy rapped it twice, hard, then ducked behind the hedge. Silence. Nothing. We waited. 30 seconds. A minute. I was about to call it a night when Joy whispered, Your turn. I stepped up and knocked again. 3 sharp bangs, and the door swung open. We stared at it. No one stood inside. No voice called out. The air spilling from the doorway was thick and stale, like something had been rotting just beyond sight. A sickly sweet smell hit my nose, and I nearly gagged. Let's go, I said. We did the thing. Let's just... But Joy was already stepping forward. Are you serious? I hissed. If no one's here, might as well look, she whispered, excitement glowing in her eyes. I don't know what made us follow. Maybe it was peer pressure. Maybe curiosity. Or maybe, deep down, we wanted to prove that we weren't afraid of shadows anymore. The floorboards groaned beneath our feet. The wallpaper was yellowed and curling at the edges. Cobwebs danced in the corners of the ceiling. Every room was empty, stripped of furniture, except the kitchen, where a moldy refrigerator sat humming like it was still connected to something. Joy opened it. The stench hit us like a wall. Rot, decay, something wet and forgotten. Inside were containers, plastic and glass. One had what looked like soup. Another held something green and furry. In the back, something slumped in a Tupperware box, gray and shapeless. I think I'm going to be sick, Eric muttered. I told you, I said. No one lives here. Can we go now? But Joy wanted more. The stairs creaked as we climbed. The second floor was darker, the air heavier like it hadn't moved in years. We split up. I found myself in what must have once been a bedroom. Stripped mattress, a cracked mirror. The closet door hung open, revealing nothing but dust. But then I saw it. A hole in the wall. Small, black, like a vent, but not quite. It was a little too low, a little too deep. I leaned closer. That's when I heard it, breathing. Long, slow, ragged. Not mine. I froze. My skin went ice cold. I whispered, Joy? Her voice answered, far away from the room across the hall. Eric called too, from somewhere down the corridor. Whoever, or whatever, was breathing was not either of them. Something moved in the dark inside the hole. And then a hand. It reached out, fast and sudden, and grabbed my shirt. The skin was pale, paper thin, the nails long and jagged. It pulled with inhuman strength, dragging me toward that impossible darkness. I screamed. Joy burst into the room and slammed into me, knocking me backward. The hand let go. She clawed at it, her nails raking down its wrist, and I saw its skin tear like old parchment. Dust fell from its wounds. We didn't wait. We ran. All of us. Down the stairs, out the door, back into the streetlight world. No one spoke. We never went back. Not to that house. Not to that street. We never even told anyone. What would we say? That we'd broken into an old house and found something waiting in the walls? That night, when I finally got home, I stared at the walls of my room for a long, long time. And for the first time since the clown, I truly feared what might be hiding behind them. Time moved forward. Years passed, but the nights didn't get easier. People talk about trauma like it's something you can recover from, like it heals over time, becomes a distant memory, just another story you can tell over a few drinks. But that's not how it worked for me. The clown, the hand under my car, the thing in the house, they didn't fade. They followed. I graduated, moved to a new city, got a decent job, even started dating someone, but I never told her about any of it. I couldn't. How do you explain that part of yourself, the cracked, hollow part that never quite feels safe anymore? I thought maybe it would stop, that whatever I had stumbled into back then, whatever unseen path I'd crossed, was finally behind me. But one night, about a year ago, I was walking home from work. It was late. Too late. The streets were quiet, the sky overcast, street lamps flickering like dying stars. As I passed a row of shuttered storefronts, I saw something move in the reflection of a darkened window. I stopped. In the reflection, just for a moment, I saw a figure standing behind me. But when I turned, nothing. And then a sound. Soft, barely audible, breathing, like something just inches from my ear. I ran. Since then, the signs have returned. A door that I locked found ajar in the morning. The faint smell of rot in rooms that should be clean. Cold spots in the middle of summer, flickering lights, whispers, shadows that don't match the things that cast them. I've started sleeping with the lights on again. And then there are the scars. Not physical ones, at least not all of them. But once, not long ago, I woke up with scratches down my back, deep, bleeding, like fingernails had clawed into me while I slept. My partner was terrified. She thought maybe I'd had a seizure, that I'd done it to myself. I let her believe that. What else could I say? I think something followed me home, that there's a thread stretching back through the years, connecting the rest stop, the clown, the house, and whatever is still with me. Because that's what I've started to believe, that it never ended. It just waits, shifts, changes faces, disguises itself. I see it sometimes now, in crowds, in reflections, in the gaps between blinking. A flicker of something too thin, too tall. Sometimes it wears the face of the clown. Sometimes it's the faceless thing from the house, and sometimes it's me. I started keeping a journal, writing down every strange occurrence, every nair, every mark. It helps in a way, like I'm tracking it, like I can stay one step ahead. But lately, I've begun to wonder if I'm not writing it down, but being made to. Like it wants me to remember, like it wants me to tell the story. And that thought chills me deeper than anything else. Because if this is all a story, it means there's a reader, a watcher, someone who wants to see what happens next, maybe even someone who was supposed to hear it. So here it is. Everything I saw, everything I lived, the hand beneath the car, the clown in the woods, the house that breathed, the eyes behind the mirror, and the scar that still itches every time I try to pretend I'm safe. Sometimes I think, maybe if I had slept a little deeper that night at the rest stop, if I hadn't noticed the movement under the car, if I hadn't stopped for gas, if we hadn't gone into that house, would it have taken me? Would I be gone by now? Or worse, would I have become it? I don't have answers, only this story, and a growing sense that I'm not the only one it's watching, because sometimes in the quiet of the night, I see it, standing just outside the window, smiling, waiting. And I wonder, is it here for me, or is it coming for you?